Okay. So your rest completed. The hour passes without any kind of significant event, and you all prepare to continue on. I need a survival check from chat to see if you can pick up the tracks of where these individuals might have come from, hopefully leading you to the next leg of your adventure. Lol, roadkill. Would you look at that? I like that a lot of new people are getting dice rolls too. That's awesome. So please hit us with the exclamation mark roll, roadkill, to see what your survival check is going to be. Okay, so 9 plus 5 bring us to 14. You manage to pick up, though it takes you a little while, maybe 5 minutes or so, casing the area. You do find the tracks of these creatures as they have entered this space. Seemingly tonight at the very least, the tracks fairly fresh. They lead you almost directly north and out of this fairly busy section of forest. You travel for a short time, and before long you find yourself on what seems to be an actual path that leads through the forest. The dust and stone being kicked up by regular traversal. You actually notice that the tracks seem to follow this path for some distance. And so you too follow it as well. All of you traveling together, keeping an ear out best as you can. I am going to need a perception check from you, chat. So this is a perception check to see what you notice along the way from your environment. Door-to-door salesman, please hit us with the exclamation mark roll for our perception check. Are you some kind of soothsayer? They called it. They called it, dude. Okay. So, with a total of 27? Yeah. With a total of 27, there are various sounds that you hear throughout your travel along this road, which takes you about 10 minutes at a fairly comfortable pace. As you travel, you hear the sound of wolf calls a fair distance away, enough that you can tell by the way the sound travels that they're definitely not attracted to you, but definitely up to something. Probably around half a mile away, about a kilometer, perhaps. You're also hearing keenly all of the different wildlife that seems to inhabit this area. And the forests seem extremely lively, even for nighttime. The bustling of birds, animals, squirrels, other nocturnal creatures coming and going. You catch the sight of the occasional badger that approaches the path, attracted by your travel, but then thinking much better of it as it sees how many people are here, deciding to not cause any kind of altercation in the middle of this road. But you also hear signs that are immediately a little bit more, not necessarily alarming, but make you feel though it's best to proceed with caution. You hear occasionally hissing sounds from a small distance away from the tree line of this path, and then rhythmic tapping sounds that seem to be some kind of appendages hitting on something that seems immediately a little bit hollow, these loud kind of like taps in different rhythms and sequences, as there are very clearly creatures communicating between each other on either side of the path. As you look out towards where these sounds are coming from, you very quickly hear the sound of these creatures scurrying away, noticing you, noticing them, and disappearing further into the forest, not making any attempts to interact with you whatsoever. You are aware at this point that there are a number of creatures along your travel that are very clearly following you in a very loose sense, but are not making any attempts to attack you. Simply observing you, and then once they realize that you know they're there, skittering off back into the forest. You don't feel an immediate danger, but you're aware that there are creatures that are interested in your movements. Let's eat a salad as a warning. Yeah, why not? You pull out a couple of loose vegetables from your pouch. Some carrots. Some things that you'd picked up along the way that you know are safe and edible. And you just kind of eat them obnoxiously loud, chewing as loud as you possibly can as a warning to any creatures residing beyond. Before long, you see an unusual sight for an area such as this. You see the shimmering of water, but you do not hear any kind of flowing river. You see the moonlight bouncing off this water in the distance, about 30 foot or so away. And as you approach, you can very clearly see that there is some kind of... I'm going to start again in a second. You can see about 30 feet away in the distance, there is some kind of constructed pond, a circular stone construction, in the middle of which there is this water that rests peacefully, lily pads scattered across it, and this sizable clearing surrounding this pond itself, quite exposed, but nonetheless seems peaceful. How do you enter this space, as you're very clear that moving through this area is the direct path to your goal? So you stand about 20 to 30 foot away from this large pond that is in the center of this clearing. You are aware that moving through this space is the correct direction to your destination, wherever these creatures came from. With that, you decide to essentially use this as an opportunity to train and reinforce the bond between you and Alden that is growing between the two of you. And you send Alden out into the area to see what he can find. So Alden enters the clearing, looking around, sniffing, ears pricked up, eyes wide. Give me a perception check, chat, for Alden. Door-to-door salesman again! It's rigged. Salesman, hit us with the roll, my friend. Okay, so with the natural 20 plus 2, it's 22. It's kind of big. Alden moves out into the space, begins to sniff, stopping occasionally to stop and listen, takes a moment to take a break and begins to drink from the pond, and you kind of just whisper out, and Alden stops getting distracted, starts moving around the area. It takes about 10 minutes as you can just make out Alden's form moving around in the darkness. Okay. As Alden moves off to the eastern edge, something seems to surprise him. And instinctively, he turns back towards you, and you hear this bird-like squawk coming from Alden's beak. A sound of alarm. Alden has very clearly found something. As this happens, you just catch, as the moonlight cascades down into this space, a large vine that begins to recoil from the pond itself into a bush nearby, and then it very suddenly and abruptly darts outwards towards Alden. I'm going to need everybody to roll initiative as it moves to attack him. You are currently 20 foot away off the map. The Beast _42, please roll initiative for us. Okay, so 19 plus 5 brings us to a whopping 24. You guys are rolling so good today. We start initiative with you. As you notice this enormous vine that is now darting out towards Alden, what do you do? It is currently 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, plus an extra 20, 70 feet away, which is still within range of your longbow attack. Are we able to command Alden to dodge or return to us? Yes. The vine is not yet attacked, but as a bonus action on your turn, which you can do straight away if you want, you can command Alden to retreat or to attack. Alden instinctually looks behind as you whistle and then just leaps out of the way of the attack and begins retreating at full pace backwards at a speed of 40 feet per round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well out of reach of this creature. You still have your action. So what would you like to do? You do still have your Hunter's Mark spell that you are concentrating on, but that would be your bonus action to move it. So at this point, it's pretty much whether or not you would like to attack from where you are or do something else. At this point in time, chat, I don't want to be a fun bandit, but you have not prepared fire arrows. So you would not be able to shoot one on this turn. You could start making fire arrows now if you want. But that is something that takes time to prepare. You can still do a regular attack, or you can spend this action starting to create some fire arrows, but you cannot instantly shoot with a fire arrow. You'll have to prepare that next time around if you want. Okay, so choosing to do a bow attack, I need a attack roll from you, chat, as this vine now starts to slither and squirm through the undergrowth towards you like a snake. Door-to-door salesman again. Salesman, hit us with the roll. Someone's getting lucky today. Let's go. Okay, so with a total of 15, your arrow strikes true as it soars through the air, then arcs down and just manages to catch this vine as it slithers towards you. A difficult target, but not the most difficult that you've ever hit. Okay, that brings us then to Roga, who dashes forward with full movement, gets to here, and moves to protect Alden. And that then brings us to Trenk's turn. Trenk doesn't quite catch up, but protects from the right flank as everybody moves to protect your owlbear companion from the encroaching assassin. We then are at the vine's turn. So this assassin vine, slow as it is to move, has an incredible reach on its attacks. So that is... Okay, yeah, so it cannot quite reach you. However, some magical ability held within itself, it slithers forward. The root itself, as it protrudes from the soil, kind of dragging, creating a rip. It seems to kind of arc upwards, and some kind of magical energy seems to flow down the root into the grass and then erupt around the space where both Roga, your companion Trenk, and Alden currently reside, as the vines surrounding them become animated, turning the area into difficult terrain. So I need all of them to make strength saving throws. So I'm going to go from the top of initiative down. We have Roga succeeds. Trenk also succeeds. And Alden, I'm going to need a saving throw from you, chat. The Beast 42, I need an exclamation mark roll from you, please. The Beast rolling a total of 10, bringing Owlden's saving throw to 12. Unfortunately, you watch as these vines erupting from the ground, piercing through soil and stone, begin to wrap around Owlden, some passing around the legs, others passing over the back, and pull Owlden to the ground. Owlden is now restrained by these vines. The other two of your companions, however, have managed to duck out of the way. That then brings us to your turn, chat. So, controlling Villandria Ithildra then, who's not currently on the map, but is some distance below it to the south. What would you like to do? Okay, so preparing fire arrows with your turn. You tear off some rags that you have off various linens that you keep in your adventuring backpack, and then you coat them with oil in preparation for the next round of attacks that you make. We are then at Roga's turn, who's going to attempt to free himself. Finally manages to free himself. Roga breaks free and moves out. Frustrated, rushes towards the vine. So that is, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Gets within range to attack, crushing branch and bush below his foot as he travels. We are then going to do an attack roll. Okay, so slamming the staff straight into this vine. Dealing 6 points of damage. The vine continues on, now having a viable target within range to try and grasp at. Trenk, sighing, swearing, muttering under his breath, also rushes forward, realizing that someone has to protect Roga. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just gets within range. Attempts to attack with the spear. Does not, unfortunately, hit. Tripping ever so slightly over a few straggling branches. Goes wide with the spear. So that brings us to the vine, which is going to, at last, not that I think it feels any kind of enjoyment, it's going to make a constrict attack against Roga. Does not hit. So you watch as the vine seems to spiral upwards and then spiral down, attempting to encircle Roga. But Roga simply retreats momentarily into the shell, and the vine itself does not seem to kind of find anything to grapple onto to restrain him. Okay, that brings us back to you, chat, at the top of the round. What would you like to do? You now have two companions that have moved within striking distance of the creature, as the combat has more formally begun, no longer able to simply continue to back away at this point in time. You are now going to have to deal with this combat as is. So exclamation mark dice to enter to see if you hit with this attack. If you hit, you will apply your favored foe feature, which will cause you to do an extra 2 damage with your attacks on your turn. So with a 7 plus 8, which is a 15, that is a hit. So firing another one of these lit arrows as you reach down to your tinderbox once again and light it on fire. You let loose the arrow, it strikes true, and you feel this almost pulling sensation, this tether between you and the target, combining as you feel yourself able to strike with a little bit more fervor. So you deal with this 12 points of damage, which is a pretty good amount of damage at this level. So you expend a use of favored foe. Okay, So, voting to command Owlden to attack, Owlden rushes forwards with more than enough movement, takes the road less traveled at this point, opting to attack from the edge of the pond. Because Owlden has traveled at least 20 feet, if it hits, it might be able to knock the creature prone, though I'm not sure if it's applicable in this situation. Conditional immunities, prone. Yeah, so fortunately it won't do that, but it's pretty cool that it's a thing. So I'm going to get you to do an attack roll, chat, for Owlden, please. So !dice to enter to see if Owlden can land this mole attack. Frank, hit us with the roll, dude. Good luck. Let's see what happens. Okay, so unfortunately, the strike does not land as Owlden rushes forward, eager, perhaps too eager, slips on some of the stonework that surrounds this pond. It is a little bit slippier than expected. The claws not offering much in the way of restabilizing him. Just kind of slips, and the claw slams down onto the ground next to the vine, but not impacting it directly. Okay, so Roga's up. Roga's going to make an attack. Manages to hit, dealing 6 damage to the vine. Trenk is going to do the same. Trenk, once again, this amputation that took place earlier has taken a lot of focus out of Trenk, and Trenk is very much struggling to work on the offensive in the battle so far today. Trenk is going to do what he does best, which is in lieu of attacking, is going to cast a first level Cure Wounds on Roga, bringing him back to consciousness. What is your healing right now, buddy? Not a whole lot. 5 hit points restored. So Roga is now back on his feet and no longer has to make those death saves for now. We are now down at the vine. So the vine is going to... What would it do? Yeah, I guess it wouldn't really understand. So loosening its grip on Roga, attempts to attack Trenk instead. Hits. So Trenk now changing places essentially as the vine slithers across the ground up around Trenk's legs, pulling him down towards the ground and then wrapping around his torso. From this, he takes 11 points of bludgeoning damage, which he can take. Bringing us to the top of the round with you, chat. What would you like to do? Roga is back to consciousness as they very suddenly wake abruptly and violently, Trenk having cast this healing magic on him. Again, you have your action and you have your bonus action. Your bonus action is something that at this point in time is probably most likely to be used to order Owlden to attack. And your action, you still have 2 more fire arrows that you can shoot to do an extra bit of damage. This vine is looking pretty roughed up at this point, and at points seems to be creaking and moving in much more sudden and sporadic fashion. Just kind of jerking back and forth. So we'll do it first to 3 to move things along fairly quickly. We currently have shoot bow, heal Roga, and kill this mother trucker. If anybody would like to add their votes to either of these options or create their own, we'll go with the first to 3 votes as the option that you take. As it seems as though at this point, you do have the upper hand in this battle, but at any point, if things go particularly sour, you could lose someone. Okay, so choosing to heal Roga, you cast Cure Wounds at some level, but I think you might have to be in touch range with that. Let me just double check what the range of Cure Wounds is. Cure Wounds is a touch spell. So you move forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just out of the immediate melee, you move forward, casting your healing magic as these strange spectral vines appear, emerging from your palms, and then stretch out towards Voga, running up the side of his neck, and you watch this strange silvery hue in the neck that seems to close up some of the scratches and scrapes. Then we are at your bonus action. What would you like to do with your bonus action? I have a good inkling of what you might do, but just to double check for fairness and transparency. So, ordering Alden to attack, I'm going to need an attack roll from chat in Alden's place, so please enter with ! dice. Infected Kitty, please hit us with a dice roll. Unfortunately, does not hit. Alden, unfortunately in a situation where they feel a little bit out of their depth, kind of slipping and sliding and scraping, attempting to claw their way back onto the grassy ground, does not manage to do any damage on this turn. Bring us to Roga. Roga is going to attempt to attack. Hits, dealing 6 points of damage. The vine responding with a fairly violent tug on Trenk, kind of almost lifting him off the ground and seemingly attempting to slam him in, but not quite having the strength to do so. We are then at Trenk, who is going to, at the start of his turn, also takes poison damage. At this point in time, Trenk now goes unconscious. As you see this purple energy flowing into the veins around his neck and then passing out. That brings us then to the Vine's turn. The Vine is going to... Yeah, it's not that smart. So, it is going to release Trenk and instead attack Roga again. Hits. Roga takes 11 points of damage and is knocked unconscious again, unfortunately. So your magic bringing him back, but then the Vine letting loose of your halfling companion returns its attention to Roga, once again constricting, squeezing the remaining breath out of him. That brings us to your turn, chat. What would you like to do? 2 of your companions are unconscious. Both Roga and Trenk seemingly falling to both a combination of poison and squeezing from this vine itself. You and Alden are looking fairly healthy. The vine itself is looking very damaged. At this point, the kind of things that you want to consider is whether or not it is worth trying to finish off the creature now and then reviving your friends afterwards. Or if you want to try and bring them back as soon as possible into the fight. As long as this thing is alive, it is a constant threat, and it now is focusing its attention on you and Alden. So you will still get the bonus of your favored foe if you attack with the sword, so you will be doing extra damage. You just double check what that damage would be. So you would be doing 9 points of damage with your short sword. Okay, so closing the vote. You move forward and attack with your short sword. I need an attack roll, please, chat. Frank, hit us with the roll, please. 14. Okay, so striking true with your short sword, you chop off a good chunk of this vine as it now splits into 2. The later half, the more extended section, just writhing around like a worm, cut into 2 sections. Still struggling, still alive, but nonetheless definitely on its last strands of life. Okay, so ordering Alden to attempt to make an attack. I need another attack roll from you, chat. Okay, Beast. Unfortunately, Alden is struggling. Although they look to you disappointed in themselves and a little afraid, They are struggling, they are scrambling, but not managed to find any purchase on this creature, which's movements are too unpredictable for Alden's lack of experience in combat. Roga needs to make a death saving throw. Okay, so Roga fails one saving throw. Trank needs to make a death saving throw. Succeeds. And that brings us to the Vine's turn. The Vine is going to attempt to attack you. Okay, does not hit. So the Vine, now moving along the line, attempts to grapple you and constrict you, squeezing the breath out of your lungs, but you just manage to duck out of the way, slipping free. And that brings us to your turn again, chat, as it is now pretty much just you and this Vine 1v1.5. This Vine is looking incredibly damaged. Its movements are slowed and sluggish, but still a little bit too unpredictable for Alden, but not particularly for you. So you currently have your sword drawn, which makes the most sense to attack with at this point in time. Pour oil light with torch. I knew it. Okay. So I'll do first to 3. Okay, there we have it. So, dice roll, please, chat. Should have backflipped. Should have backflipped. Should have shown that Vine with no eyes that you were not messing about. I'm sure it could feel it though, right? It could feel the backflip with its blind sight. Beast 42 again. Okay. So, hit us with the roll, please. It's a hit! Let's go! All right, so drawing your sword once more in the direction of this Vine, seeing it thrashing, worrying about Alden to your left and your companions that have been knocked out to your right, you understand the urgency in the situation. This creature needs to die, and it needs to die now, or there's no telling what could happen next. At any given moment, you could find yourself wrapped up, and you don't quite fancy your chances. If such a circumstance were to come about. So you strike true, slitting down the Vine across its entire outstretched body, carrying it through almost to where it protrudes from the ground itself, and it just parts into 2 halves, like splitting a vegetable, and then goes completely limp, and the combat is resolved. So, your companions are still struggling to breathe from the poison. They're still unconscious. You have 1 spell slot left because you used the Cure Wounds previously there. You're aware, being in similar situations in the past, it's entirely possible that either of them may stabilize on their own, but there's no sure way to know until it's possibly too late. So this decision has potential consequences, so you may want to consider this carefully. Okay, so deciding to cure Trank first, you use your last remaining spell slot and revive him. You very quickly relay that Roga is also out and you don't have any more magic to also heal him as well. And so Trank instinctively uses what I believe is also... No, actually he's got 1 more after this. Using a Cure Wounds of his own. Actually, no, he's not going to use Cure Wounds. He's going to use Spare the Dying to not consume a spell slot. You watch as Roga's breathing becomes significantly less labored. Doesn't regain consciousness immediately, but nonetheless stabilizes Roga so Roga is no longer making death saving throws. Roga will, in time, regain consciousness. Okay, so choosing to rest, at least for a short time, in the darkness, under a tree, you decide to find whatever comfort you can, lighting a small fire, resting, tending to Roga's wounds. It takes about an hour before Roga starts to regain consciousness with Trenk's help. You all sit there, the moonlight cascading over the pond, reflecting and refracting its light. There's a serenity in the subsequent circumstances you found yourself in after this fight. A peacefulness in this area that you hope will provide you some respite from what may lie in store on the next leg of this journey. That is where we will call today's session, and we will pick it up again next week.